No, I did not do it for the fame, the glory, scholarship money, or because I had to, but because I wanted to. I wanted to, and still want to, compete for the university that I love. I still want to don "You Are Red" and "You Are Blue" and wear Richmond across my chest at every competition that I attend. I still want to represent the university that has given so much back to me. Wearing another university's name simply would not feel right, but many of us soon will be forced to do so. The bonds that are created through running are powerful. Each one of our team members is invariably linked through the persistent pain that we put ourselves through on a daily basis. Together, we have been through almost all of the emotions of the human experience: love, compassion, sorrow, grief, happiness, gratitude, angst, and empathy. Both of our teams have grown together to form an inseparable family. We live together, dine together, study together, and run together. But now, these bonds are being broken. Next year, many of us will be forced to leave this great university and attend schools all around the United States. We will have to leave behind the beautiful friendships that have grown over these past years with fellow students, faculty members, and staff. In a reluctant manner, we will regretfully leave Richmond and start new lives in another place. Does this have to be the outcome? Or can we find a solution where the student athletes that have become better people because of this university and have given so much back to it continue to keep doing so? Thank you.
The Taylors have created a program. They have not created a men's team that is separate from a women's team. The word family has been thrown around a lot this past week. Some may not understand it, but as a member of this family, I do, and I'd like to help you understand as well. Every morning at 7, 3 seasons a year, we wake up and walk over to the Robin Center, where we meet for practice. The boys head to the left, the girls to the right, just 10 yards away. Together we stretch, and when it is time for push-ups, we count together. Together we warm up and meet back at the track where we work out together. The days we have lift, we head to the weight room together. Together we travel, and together we compete. Okay, so we do everything together, but it goes beyond that for me. There are over 20 young men at this school that will stop and ask me how my day is, and actually care. When I look stressed, they'll ask me what they can do to help. They'll slide over and make room for us at the D-Hall table. Not every college woman can say she has 20 brothers that will have her back no matter what. We on the women's side can. These guys have seen us at our worst. They've cheered for us when we felt as though no one else was on our side. They've seen us with sweat all over ourselves and tears streaming down our faces. They've put their arms around us and carried us when we couldn't. These guys are our best friends. They're our teammates, and yes, they're our brothers. It troubles me to think that others can see a future where we are separated, where our team is no longer one program, but rather just a women's team. But the reality of this goes a lot deeper. The reality of this goes a lot deeper than just me and my teammates. It is about all of the women here now and in the future at this university. It is not just about cutting men's sports, but it is about not creating opportunities for women. A big question mark that has been left in my mind and in the mind of many others is whether the committee that made this decision looked at adding additional women's sports and whether any serious data was collected in this process. And if so, we are wondering whether this data was honestly considered in adding additional opportunities for women. My understanding of the role of Title IX and gender equity is to provide equal opportunity to women in places where federal money is given. In recent years, our university has shifted to a population that is strongly 60% women and 40% men. I am concerned that with this move we are not seeing the university adding additional opportunities for women where appropriate, especially in athletics. We were told that this decision was in the best interest of the university and its students. I would like to argue that the females are also a part of the student body. Why ignore the female student athletes while dismantling 3 of our strong men's programs? For example, we have a strong female club, crew, and club volleyball team, yet it seems as though they were not given the same serious consideration and thought that was given to moving lacrosse from club to varsity. That does not make sense to me. Can you imagine the response if the university decided to add a lacrosse program and a women's sport? Would we be here right now at an event called Save Our Sports, or would we be celebrating our sports? Would our campus morale be centered on questioning our university's driving forces, or would our morale be experiencing a major lift in pride and unity? I suppose a year worth of data can only tell you so much, but hopefully the university will focus on the power of the word "and" next time by asking, how can we benefit all of our students, men and women? As a business major here at Richmond, we are taught that in business, mistakes are made. But the only bad thing that can come from them is that if we don't capture additional data, make adjustments, and correct our mistakes and move on. I hope that you take the additional information you've captured in the last week and a half and the information you will continue to capture to reconsider the decisions that have been made about track and soccer and the significant impact those decisions have had on this university and community, specifically my brothers in the track and field program.
And who did I learn perseverance alongside? My teammates, my family. And you will not meet a group of people with greater perseverance on this campus than my family. A family that, my sophomore year, lost its brother, its son, Ryan Jobs, in a tragic car accident. A family that showed up side by side, hand in hand, heads on shoulders, in West Virginia in the middle of winter in Mass to bury our brother. A family that sat by the bedside of his brother, Pete Norquist, as he lay fighting for his life in the hospital from an infection that made its way to his heart. A family that, after being hit over and over again by tragedy and despair, learned of my own heart condition, what I would learn to be the second leading cause of sudden death in athletes. A family that stuck by me as I left college 1.5 months before graduation, and a family that I dedicated myself to returning their support by showing up to UMass 9 days after waking up with a sternum wired and glued together for the Atlantic 10 Championships. A family that I walked at graduation with 17 days after lying on that operating table. You see, we persevere. The moment I woke up in the cardiac ICU, I wanted to be with the family that had supported me for so long. And when someone tells me that my family is being taken away, it hurts, it cuts, it stings, it burns. But you know what? I've learned to never give up. We never give up. Because as much pain as this may cause us today, we've endured worse and come out better men for it. Nobody can look me in the eye and with an ounce of integrity and honesty tell me that my family does not belong at Richmond. You cannot tell me that my family, a family that for the past 10 years has had the top 10 GPA in the nation and produced both academic and athletic All-Americans, that we aren't right for the University of Richmond. You cannot tell me that my brothers, who without an ounce of scholarship money, showed up day in and day out at 7:30 in the morning to practice for a sport that once again the university does not support with scholarship money, have not met and gone beyond the highest university expectations. You see, each member of this program, my brothers and my sisters, embody the idea of what true student athletes are. I challenge the administration to turn to its students, to the faculty, to the alumni, and tell them these men are not ideal student athletes and that they do not perfectly exemplify the University of Richmond. Then tell these students, the faculty, and the alumni the ways that this team does not meet those expectations. I'm afraid they cannot. And if an administration and its board has the power to take away a program that epitomizes what the University of Richmond stands for, what can stop it from removing any other successful program here, whether it's academic, athletic, or social? I look to everyone in this room. In one way or another, you have a stake in what has occurred here. If you didn't, you wouldn't be in this auditorium to support us now. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here. You believe in what the university stands for and the holistic education that it provides for its students. You are here because you worry. You worry because you are unnerved at the actions of those who are supposed to keep students' best interests at heart. Your faith in the university has been shaken by decisions made without your consultation, without your knowing, and without your consent. We are here because we fight to make a wrong right. We are here because we love the University of Richmond. We are here because this is our home, and we will not allow our home to crumble from within. That is the Richmond promise of every community member in this room, as athletes, as scholars, as teachers, as mentors, as coaches, as role models. We promise to do every single thing in our power to ensure that this university will protect its family. And to that, we will keep our promise.
Jim Miller, Richmond's athletic director, informed us that the men's soccer program was to be terminated and replaced with men's lacrosse, effective at the end of the 2012 season. Mr. Miller cited 3 reasons for the board's decision. I challenge the legitimacy of all 3. First, he stated the university wants to replace soccer with lacrosse. Soccer is an international sport, while lacrosse is unique to the United States, primarily in the northeast region of the country. While the board agreed that it made sense to integrate lacrosse because it coincides with the university's primary target market, this decision is completely contradictory to the athletic department's vision statement. It is a well-known fact that soccer is the most popular sport globally. Soccer is a game that has the ability to unify a broad array of cultures under the common purpose to succeed as a team. More succinctly, soccer celebrates international diversity. The University of Richmond's men's soccer team exemplifies this tradition of diversity better than any other athletic team on campus. Second, we were told that because there are 203 NCAA Division I teams, compared to only 61 NCAA Division I lacrosse teams, it is more difficult to compete successfully to become a top 25 national program in soccer. I find this reason especially disconcerting because it demonstrates how easily the leadership in my university backed off of competition. Richmond's soccer program was at one point a top 25 program in the nation. With a firm commitment to the program's success, there is no reason why we cannot return to that prior level of accomplishment. However, during my tenure at Richmond, that commitment to the program has been absent. Third, Mr. Miller has made the observation that the men's soccer program has not achieved much success of recent. I would like to draw attention to the fact that the majority of us have never formally met our athletic director. Moreover,
as a father and as a teacher, I understand how hard it is to watch these young men experience this disappointment. I sincerely regret the dislocation this decision is causing for our student athletes, the pain, and I wish there was some way to make this transition without affecting them. As president, though, it is my responsibility to make decisions that best serve the university in its broader mission and over the longer term, even if they are painful today. Those of you who care enough to be here recognize that this decision came after months of study and deliberation, but some have asked me why we embarked in such a study at all. Why couldn't we have left things alone when they were going so well? My response is that we have spent the last 5 years trying to find answers to some of the major questions facing American higher education. How do you expand access to the opportunity of higher education to students regardless of their means? How do you create an educational community that reflects and takes advantage of the diversity of the nation and of the world? How does a private university in the 21st century best serve its community at the same time it serves its students? The university community, in response to these questions, has taken action and has accomplished some remarkable things. In the past 5 years, we have more than doubled the number of students of color at Richmond to 25% in the first year class. We have doubled the number of international students to 10% among this year's freshmen. We have quadrupled the percentage of people of color among our new faculty and our new professional staff hires. We have increased the percentage of students who study abroad, and we have created new kinds of faculty-led international experiences to guide our students as they begin to discover the world.
Can't do that with the cross.
Yeah.
What the hell does that do to anything?
Peter, are you going to control this?
Yeah, we've got the president for 15 and 20 minutes. You'll have time to Q&A. That's an excellent question. Ask it later, please.
It's not a question, and I'll expect questions as questions. We have strengthened our commitment to access and affordability with a 65% increase in Pell Grant students, even as we have solidified the basis of our financial aid commitments. We have opened up the entire intellectual range of the university to our students through academic collaborations, innovations such as the first-year seminars. We have strengthened the fabric of our community through the expansion of co-curricular programs like sophomore scholars in residence and increased community-based learning. We have built upon the best traditions of our past to improve our relationship with alumni and renew our commitment to the city in which we live. These efforts and initiatives and accomplishments are interconnected parts of the Richmond experience, of which athletics is also a part. Which takes us to the key question in American education that we are addressing today, one that virtually every school is struggling over. How do we sustain a healthy Division I athletic program that occupies an appropriate place at a university, especially in an institution of our size and selectivity? I love athletics, and I have been an advocate for athletics since the day I got here. I admire the many student athletes I have come to know in my classroom and in my work with student leaders. If the work of the task force and the athletic strategic plan taught us nothing else, it was how excellent our student athletes are. We examined every aspect of anything that could be examined. And what we see is our student athletes are just as they have been represented to you by the young men and women who've spoken to you this afternoon. They are, in fact, excellent. They do, in fact, graduate. They do, in fact, excel. And their sports are, in fact, a very powerful part of their student experience. But as colleges and universities across the nation recognize, playing at the Division I level involves large and growing investments. It requires money, of course, for coaches and trainers and travel and support. It requires extensive and costly facilities. It requires valuable positions in the first-year class, for which we had 10,000 applicants this year. It requires expensive athletic scholarships, and it requires spaces on a roster to field a team. Despite the considerable resources that we're already committed, the athletic strategic planning process made clear that some of our sports remain under-resourced. They offer a diminished student experience because they do not have what they need, including roster spaces. So I posed several questions in a comprehensive, exhaustive review of our athletics program. How many and which sports should we offer at Richmond to offer the healthiest Division I experience to our students? What is the right size and configuration for athletics, given all the other things that we want to do? The ongoing research of that task force was reported to and discussed by the Board of Trustees at 5 meetings over the course of a year. The decision that we announced last Friday offered the answers that we came up with. The plan that we are moving forward with will do this. Add $100,000 to our remaining Olympic sports budgets. Add 3 full scholarships to our remaining Olympic sports teams. Allow our existing Olympic sports to have more flexibility in the roster size. Make better use of our existing facilities by sponsoring a team for which Robins Stadium is an exceptional venue. And do those things without adding university investment in our athletics program, which is already large enough. This response moves on multiple fronts. The elimination of men's indoor and outdoor track provides the critical roster resources that will allow our other teams to be stronger. So a word of explanation about this, which seems not to be understood or referred to. A word of explanation. The majority of our men's track and field athletes are members of the cross-country team. Currently, our distance runners are the only student athletes at the universities who compete in 3 championship seasons: cross-country, indoor track, and outdoor track. The elimination of men's indoor and outdoor track frees up roster capacity for other sports, even as it maintains cross-country. While the number of competitive opportunities is reduced under this new model, men's cross-country student athletes will continue to have access to full coaching and practice time during a season that is only 12 days shorter than it would have been with indoor and outdoor track. The cross-country team will also have the same access to academic support, sports medicine, and strength and conditioning. I recognize this is a different and unwelcome model for our running program. But this decision strikes a balance between the needs of the men's cross-country program and the needs of the athletic program and the university as a whole. This change allows our other teams to get stronger without athletics getting bigger, which is one major goal of our task force's recommendation. The university made a different kind of strategic decision when it decided to substitute men's lacrosse for men's soccer. Lacrosse is the fastest growing high school sport for men, and our Mid-Atlantic region is particularly strong in lacrosse, though it is rapidly expanding across the country. Schools not unlike us, such as the University of Denver and current national champion Loyola of Maryland, have been successful in lacrosse at the highest level. Robins Stadium is better suited to lacrosse than to soccer, and the elimination of men's soccer reduces the need for a dedicated grass field facility for which we have neither the space nor the funding. The addition of men's lacrosse will help solidify ties to high schools that we know are important pipelines to Richmond, and will build effectively on the existing recruitment ties to schools that have strong high school lacrosse programs. Toss me my watch. Thank you. We're an outdoor track for the 6 track-only athletes and the soccer team brings an end to the Division I opportunities at Richmond for those student athletes. We will continue to honor their scholarships, and I hope they will choose to complete their educations at Richmond. I recognize that for some, however, their disappointment here and the opportunity to continue to compete in Division I athletics may be too important to forego by remaining. So the cost to the men who play these sports and who represent us well in every way is quite apparent to all of us. But it is the right decision for the university and for athletics in the long run. So let me tell you why I think that is. Some people have asked whether we can't just add sports in D. Let me explain why we cannot. Student athletes are wonderful students, but there are 10,000 other students who also want an education here. Student athletes account for about 13% of each incoming class. That latter number is among the highest of any school with which we compete for students. Our athletic program looks more like that of a larger public than of the small private university that we are. We simply cannot grow the number of sports we have if we want to remain competitive more broadly for students with other talents. Adding sports is expensive. We looked hard at this question. We modeled dozens of scenarios. Asked if we had looked at that. This task force met 90 minutes every week for over a year and used the most sophisticated data gathering analysis that you can imagine. We thought of every possibility. We went into it thinking, boy, that would be great. I would love to be able to do that.
Ryan?
There we go. I would love to be able to do that. And we tried to see every way possible we couldn't. And the board would have loved to do that. But the most viable scenario that we could develop added more than $1 million a year in labor and operating costs before we address questions of facilities or scholarships or additional support staff in athletics. To give you an idea, you have to multiply that by 20 to establish an endowment that would sustain that. Adding sports would have significant and expensive facilities requirements, and perhaps most importantly, and this is something I want people to be thinking about your colleagues in other sports, it would not add one penny, one scholarship, or one bit of roster flexibility in our existing Olympic sports, which we know are under-resourced. In short, we cannot allow the growth in athletics to crowd out the other things that we want to do, including within athletics itself. People have asked whether special interest or philanthropy drove this decision. The answer is no. This decision was a strategic one for the university. After over a year of study and many searching conversations, members of the task force and I were convinced by last spring that this was the best approach for Richmond. It was also clear that it could not be enacted without philanthropy. And frankly, I did not know whether that philanthropy would come in a year or 2 years or long after I had left this job. So the plan was defined, just as I have described it here, but we chose not to vote on it, enact it, or announce it until we knew that we could accomplish it. That's what you read about in the Times-Dispatch. Okay? We are not doing anything right now because, for the same reasons that I just laid out, you cannot move forward unless you have the resources to do this. As it turned out, philanthropy came more quickly than I expected from dozens of people. But there are donors on both sides of this decision, and we see that playing out on the front page of the Collegian. If you think that we didn't know, as in every other university that has tried to do this, because universities are being forced to try to do this, that people wouldn't push back. And if you didn't think we didn't know that donors of all sides were going to say that they were done with us, you're fooling yourself. So the idea that one person can to shape all of this, you need to think about what the entire environment of philanthropy looks like. These donors who think we made the right decision will likely continue giving to the university. Those donors who disagree may decide to direct their charitable giving elsewhere. We were fully aware of that dynamic going into this analysis, but we also knew that we had an obligation to make the right decision for the university, regardless of its impact on fundraising. It is important to understand that the men and women who serve as trustees for this place do so out of a sense of loyalty and responsibility, as parents, as alumni, as neighbors. And they work hard at it. They are smart, experienced, and independent-minded, and there is not one among them who is a pushover or who would take direction from others. Some have asked how we could eliminate a global sport like soccer. Soccer and track are, of course, global sports. But here at Richmond, the progress that we have made in increasing the diversity of our student body and the number of international students has not come about because of athletics. In fact, our non-athletes are more racially, internationally, and socioeconomically diverse than the student athletes on these teams and are most of our teams. This sport mix is not a diminution of a university's commitment to diversity. It is a decision about the appropriate place of Division I athletics at the University of Richmond. Finally, people, including the members of the soccer team Friday night, have asked me if there is something that can change this outcome, or that could have changed this outcome. And the answer is also no. Our student athletes, these teams, our alumni who are here tonight, have been good students, good athletes, generous alumni, excellent ambassadors for the university. They have not let us down in any way. There is no action or inaction that would have changed this outcome because it is a strategic decision arrived at after long and hard consideration. To wrap up, the University of Richmond can do remarkable things, but it cannot do everything. We have sought to take advantage of our unusual size while recognizing that that size places limits on what we can do. Over the last 5 years, thousands of people have worked to achieve our collective ambitions for the university. On one challenge after another, we have made decisions that are based on an honest reckoning with the best evidence and analysis and acted accordingly. This decision about athletics, hard as it is in keeping with these other things that we have done together. It is for the greater good of the university in all its dimensions.
If the two most important groups of people on this campus, in this university, are students and faculty, how come none of them were part of the decision?
On this fact, I just told you that two faculty were a part of this decision. Two faculty? Because it's a 12-person task force that's doing this. So, yes, sir.
The reasons that soccer was cut was because we were unhappy that our lack of success over the last few years has provided.
I did not say that.
Was that Jim
I did
Miller?
not say that. That's a misrepresentation. What else you got?
All right. In other words, when you get to the question, even if he didn't say that, we would get
Okay,
to
so
the question.
assuming that you didn't say it. The happiness does not necessarily come from competing and what we do when we compete, how we compete, whether it's a win-loss or a draw. It comes from the bond that we have with our team and what we go through to be on that field and compete for the University of Richmond. I'm only a freshman and I was told less than halfway through the season, but I found happiness in this school. I was happy even though after we beat off number 19 JMU, we lost every single game up to that point. I was happy. And even though we weren't winning, I was still a happy student. So if you would have said it, What would your answer be?
I'm sure it's a misunderstanding of some sort. I take your point.
Okay.
I have many sources of happiness that would come to that. See.
Another team, D1 team, to take a 2-week free trip to Italy, how we can foster a community of athletics for these Division I athletes. And also, my other question is, looking at the demographic that lacrosse is going to bring in, how does that fit with the Richmond Promise that you always talk to our student community about?
So, two questions. One, are we not rich enough to be able to add another sport? Because when we pay for a trip to Italy, it's true. The answer, as I've told you several times, and that's what I hear people speaking from their own self-interest and their feelings. We need to be thinking about the larger strategic needs of the university. So, can we spend another $1 million on another sport? We could. But are we willing to take that from all the other things that we're doing? No. Okay, this is what this boils down to.
I'll just say right now, I'll forego all the landscaping that we do at this school.
I know this is a very difficult position for you to be in. That being said, I have really good friends that are considering leaving the school, and that's a big pain for me. What you have just said is people are speaking from their personal experience, but these personal experiences make up the Richmond community. So I want to know, why were these personal experiences not considered in this decision to cut sports programs that mean a lot to the community, but the community was not involved in this decision, I feel like. There were 12 people involved in this very important decision that's going to affect all of us.
The 12 people generated the data reports. It was the board and I who decided this. All I can say is, I know it was seem unpersuasive to you, that we did think a lot about actually this moment and about the pain. And all we can say is that our responsibility is to think beyond this moment. And so there's nothing good to say that's going to answer that particular concern. And but talking to people beforehand would not have fixed it.
We all understand the great personal testimony that a lot of people here have given, but it's time to talk about a couple of the facts that are being presented, since those are the most important parts here. So again, thank you everybody for the personal testimonies, but Dr. Ayers, I see the first two defenses that a lot of people have been receiving in their emails and letters, and thank you for responding to a lot of them. That doesn't go unnoticed. Defense one, and this is specific to track and field and cross country again. But you mentioned on the one hand that by eliminating our track and field program at our school here, we only have about 6 members that are not distance runners. Therefore, they all get the chance to compete during cross country if they still want to remain here next year. So we have that on the one hand. It's as the team was told in this meeting, the least disruptive choice, and that is a quote. It was said. And then on the other hand, defense number 2 that I keep seeing and hearing is that this 13% number at the university of the ratio of student athletes to regular students here. And that's rigid and it can't be changed. And okay, I understand both points now on each side, but let me just repeat this so I make it clear to everybody. On the one hand, we're only affecting 6 people. 6 track and field athletes will not remain as student athletes. So it's only 6. On the other hand, we can't change 13%. Not by a handful of people or 20 people, whatever it might be to start a team, and I have a little bit more. But so on the one hand, 6 is not much at all. That's okay. On the other hand, 6 is for a rise in 1% or 2%. Seems like a drastic change that the university can't handle. And I think that those kind of contradict each other.
Yeah, good point.
It was a little frustrating, and I think that you could tell from the audience, him answering our questions, it almost seemed like he wasn't giving a straight answer, and some of the logic behind it was kind of lost.
How much has this divided the student body?
I think that you can definitely tell that it goes beyond like soccer versus lacrosse or track versus lacrosse. It's much larger than that. It's more about the ethics behind the school and what they actually stand for.
Thank you so much. And the last thing I guess that would have I mean, the decision's final, so how does the university move on from this?
That's a tough question because I think that you're angering a lot more people than you're making happy, because I have many friends who are on the lacrosse team and they're just as astounded by the way that the university has dealt with this problem. So I think that it's going to take a lot of work, and the university needs to involve the student body more in going on from here.
Yeah, he's actually, to be honest with you, he was given scholarship opportunities at some other universities, and he chose Richmond mainly because of the faculty and the community here, and as well as the coaches and the team members. When he took his recruiting trip, like the young lady said, it just fell in love with the place. So it's really going to be a decision for him to make, but he's leaning towards leaving because he has a passion for running, and that's a big decision for him. You know, we're like I said, he came here without a scholarship because they don't give scholarships, and gave up scholarships. So in turn, we've been, you know, we're more than willing to fund his education. It's just, it's a shame that it has to come to this.
What did you hope? Did you think the president answered some questions?
I think, you know, it's very easy to stand back, I guess, and look at the long-term goals, holistic view of the facility, of the university, and we don't maybe understand all those things. The process is what bothered me so much, is more of the fact that the strategic plan was put together, and there was a diverse group of people across the whole community, the students, the community, all that was done, and then they went and basically did a small study with a small group, no students, no athletes, a much smaller group, that then basically changed a strategic plan that in the spring of last year said that all the sports were fine. They liked the mix of what they had. If you look at that, that's exactly what they stated, and that's what was stated in to the coaches in the track and field program in the spring.
I think that we have a lot of organization. We have strong alumni, strong parents, and you know, I think all in all, they pretty much underestimated the overall intelligence of both teams they were cutting. So I think that this is something they were looking at, hoping it going away in a couple of weeks, but it's clearly not going to be that case.
For you and most of your teammates, are there plans to transfer, or are there plans to continue fighting?
Well, for me as a junior, it really doesn't make much sense at this point. Actually, my class, there's 4 of us left. So, you know, I've talked to the other 3 guys, and it's, you know, from what they've told me, there's no plans to transfer, just because at this point our lives are here and we're too established. But the younger guys, yes, absolutely. I think they're all looking at the option to transfer, and several of them have already committed to transferring elsewhere. You know, a whole number of them were away this weekend. They weren't at practice because they were looking at other schools. So, yeah, the younger guys are definitely looking at that option.
Okay. I'm Tom Smale, and this is Justin Keefe.
Yeah.
Okay, so given what just happened with the whole forum and everything, and I guess President Ayers is not going to change his decision, how does that make you guys feel about your team, your family that you said you had?
Essentially betrayed. I mean, by the whole school in general. I mean, I came here with a promise that I would have 4 years of competition in all 3 seasons, and that was a major factor in me coming here, as well as many of my teammates, and just betrayed that I'm not going to be able to do that. And you know, I thought this was the place for me. I guess that changed.
I guess as a team that represents the ideal model of student athletes, you know, a whole group of us that got in here based on our academic merit from high school rather than our athletic merit, you know, we feel, like Justin said, betrayed, and you know, we feel completely disrespected by this decision as students who are supposed to be under the care of the president and the board of trustees, that a major part of our lifestyle could just be yanked out from under us and with no reconsideration at all.
Yeah. Were there some things that President Ayers mentioned that you found contradictory, or things that you thought that he was conveying in a slanted light, or something that he said?
If I recall correctly, he did say a couple times that there was not a need, or it was not a necessity to bring in another sport, and yet they're doing it, which is contradictory in itself. Other than that, I mean, do you?
Well, I mean, I feel that I mean, it's kind of hard to say because, you know, through the meeting it was kind of like lost a little bit, but yeah, just the fact that that they put up an argument just against, you know, everything that we had that was legitimate, you know, in stating that we should be here and we have a right to be here, just the complete lack of any care or thought into putting in any real legitimate answers or coming up with any different arguments, you know, kind of put a sting in this.
Yeah, and looking to the future, what is your plan of action given that the university's decision is pretty firm?
I mean, we're going to continue to do everything we can. We don't think this is over while they say it is. That's just the message they're trying to convey, and we're not going to give up. I mean, as for the team, I've heard, I mean, obviously there's an option of transfer, which none of us want to do. Like I said, this, at least before last Friday, was the place for me, and I want it to continue to be that way, but I have to consider all options along with the rest of our team. So.
My plan of action, you know, as Justin said, we keep at it, keep doing everything we can, we be as good as we possibly can inside and outside the classroom, and you know, we're of course since last Friday even more motivated than we ever have been to be as perfect as we can be to the model of student athlete. And individually, my plan is to stay, finish up my education since I only have one academic year left before I graduate, but I could use that year of eligibility somewhere else, although I don't want to.